Hey guys, it's John from THKP, and today we are holding the line against Wall Street hedge funds. Just a quick disclaimer, this is meant to be fun and educational. I'm not an investor, I have no idea what I'm doing, and never ever run code with real money unless you know exactly what it does. Alright, let's do this. Step 1, you need to get an Alpaca account. Alpaca is a stockbroker that allows you to do commission-free trading with programming. Next, we need to get the Alpaca Trade API for Python. Alpaca supports a couple different languages, so if you have a language of choice, just keep that in mind. But for Python, you can install the Trade API just by running pip install alpaca trade API. So let's create our program. Import the Alpaca Trade API and also import time because we're going to be doing a little sleeping. We can define some parameters here, which I'll just copy over. You probably want to set some maximum amount of shares, and we'll also define our symbol and our buy and sell price. Next, we can create our Alpaca API, Alpaca Trade API.rest. We need a key and secret key. I'm not going to show you mine. We can find those in the Alpaca UI once we create our account. And the base URL is just going to be paperapi.alpaca.com. Paper is just the Alpaca testing environment. If you're actually running your code for real against your actual portfolio, you would just delete this part. Then we can create two functions to sell and buy stock. So the first one will just be our sell function. There's a submit order method on the Alpaca API. We use our symbol here. The side is going to be sell. It's either buy or sell. The quantity is going to be the past and quantity, the argument. The type is going to be a limit order. We'll talk about why that is in just a minute. And then the limit price will be our sell price from above. Time in force, day. This means the order will expire at the end of the market day. And we'll turn extended hours on. This just means that normally the market closes at 4:30, but this trade can actually take place after that close until 6 p.m. or something like that. And the idea there is if something happens a little bit late in the day, we don't want to miss it. Now, the reason we're using a limit order is because we only want to actually sell the stock when the price reaches our sell price. We could try to time it perfectly and submit a market order at the right time, but that's extremely difficult to do in practice. So you want to set up a limit order so that you don't miss the spike. Next, we'll set up our buy method. Call it buy one because this will just buy one stock. We'll explain the reasoning behind that in just a minute. So once again, it's going to be submit order. And in fact, I'm going to mostly copy this. So this will just be one, this will be the buy side, and this will be our buy price. Now the reason we're not just buying max shares all at once is because we want to provide support at this price. We don't want to allow the price to fall below this because then the hedge funds will be able to buy cheap stock and cover their shorts. So whenever the stock price goes lower, we want to put in these limit buys in order to create support at that price. Okay, so now we get to the heart of our algorithm. I'm going to set up some variables to track our buy order and our sell order. We'll only ever have one of each for this particular algorithm. And then I'm just going to set up a infinite loop that sleeps for 25 seconds in between each iteration. First thing we're going to do is grab our position. We can use our API. There's a function called getPosition. Pass in our symbol here. I just want the quantity to be in a variable, so I'm going to do that. Now we need to do a couple things. We need to sell shares, possibly, and then we need to buy shares. And in between these two, we might exit. And we exit if our quantity is equal to our max shares. In fact, we can just put that right now. So if quantity is greater than or equal to our max shares, break. That'll get out of our infinite loop. Now to sell shares, we first want to check if our quantity is greater than 0, because it doesn't really make sense to sell 0 shares. If our sell order is currently none, this means we need to set up our sell order. So it's just going to be equal to selling the entire quantity of our shares. Else, this means we have a pending sell order. So what we want to do is look up the order from the Alpaca API because we want to get the latest information. So we just say get order, and we can say sell order.id. And here we just want to check if the order was filled. Order.status equals filled. And if it was, we're on Jupyter here, so we can take our attendees and run. And we can also just break out of this algorithm because at this point, this means the share price had the major spike. It's very unlikely it's going to spike again, so we can take our earnings and get out. Otherwise, we want to check if the current quantity is greater than the quantity specified in the sell order. This means that we've actually bought a new share. So we need to update our sell order with that new quantity. So there's a nifty method called replace order. So we definitely want to replace the order instead of, canceling it and creating a new one. Because if we canceled it and created a new one, we might miss some extremely fast price spike. So if the quantity is equal to the current quantity in our position, then we don't actually have to do anything. So we can just have a nice little comment here which explains that the cell already exists. Don't need to do anything. All right. So I'm just going to delete this comment here. And now for the buy part. So this is kind of similar to the sell part. So if a buy order is none, we want to set one up. So we're just going to say buy order equals buy one. And once again, if the buy order is not none, then we want to get the latest buy order. And we want to check and see if the status is filled. Now, if the status is filled, this means that the price fell below the buy order's limit price. We want to set up a new buy order in order to provide support at that price. And what support means is you just don't want the stock price to fall below that price, because if it does, then that means the hedge funds can buy cheap stocks and get out of their short position. So unless people have buy orders set at some price, then the price can actually fall below that, and that can be a bad thing. And I do want to mention, this is a little toy program, but in real life, the status can be a bunch of other things, like canceled, for instance. So we should be checking for all of those things, but again, this is just an example, so I'm not going to go through all that rigmarole. So if the buy order status is filled, then we actually just want to create a new one, because once again, we want to provide support. And also, once again, we don't want to buy everything at once, because we want to provide support over time. As the stock price, dips throughout the day, we want to have that buy order ready so that the minute it hits that dip, we immediately provide support, and then the stock price can go back up. So if everyone in the world was running this algorithm, then the stock price would never fall below 275 because there's always a buyer at that price. So if the buy order status is not filled, then we're good. We don't need to do anything. So we already have a buy order out there. So it's already set up. We don't need to do anything. So that's about it. Nice, simple little program. We can go over the logic just one last time. So it basically exists in three phases inside this infinite loop. We have our sell phase, where we're only selling if there's no order currently out, or if the quantity on the order needs to be updated. And the quantity will change if our buy orders successfully process. Then we have this little phase where just if we hit the quantity, this is kind of the point where, we've kind of reached our limit in terms of how many shares we want to hold. So we've already set our sell up so we can safely just jump out of the program. And then we hit the buy phase, where obviously if we don't currently have a buy, we're setting that up. And then if our last buy was filled, we just set a new one up to provide support at the low price point. All right, so that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I had a ton of fun making this. It's really fun being able to buy and sell stocks with this Alpaca API. And I hope it goes without saying that, don't just copy this code and run it. Read the docs, know what you're doing before you're running anything like this. Alpaca does provide the paper environment, which is very cool. It's kind of a testing environment that lets you just try out stock strategies and things like that. So yeah, have a wonderful week. And if you like the video, please thumbs up and subscribe and all that good stuff. It really helps the channel out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.